Welcome to hosting a Kaizen event to achieve organizational cost savings. My name is Rita D'Angelo, and this podcast has been brought to you by Laboratory Learning Solutions. A Kaizen event is a focused improvement activity that brings together a team of individuals to analyze and improve a specific process or problem. It is a powerful tool for driving continuous improvement and achieving significant results. By implementing the Kaizen philosophy of making small incremental changes, organizations can enhance efficiency, quality, and overall performance. Through collaboration and data-driven decision-making, Kaizen events empower teams to identify and eliminate waste, streamline processes, and drive positive change. With a structured approach and a commitment to continuous improvement, organizations can leverage Kaizen events to achieve their operational goals and drive sustainable success. So let's get started. In this session, we will talk about planning, preparing, and conducting the event with the use of lean tools. The learning objectives is we will define the meaning, process, and application of a Kaizen event. We will list the lean tools used in a Kaizen event, and we will also recognize the steps in the process of a Kaizen event. So in the outline, we will talk about what a Kaizen is, why do we need a Kaizen, the phases of Kaizen, the tools and the methods, and also definitions. We said a Kaizen means gradual, unending improvements by doing little things better. And we are setting and achieving higher standards. Also talk about a charter, which is a written commitment. It is approved by management and it states the scope of the authority for an improvement project. Now this is a plan, so we will develop this plan, all the steps that we are going to talk about in our Kaizen. We will also talk about a value stream map, and this is a visual representation of material and information flow from beginning to end to identify waste in the current state and develop a future state. So what should that process look like in the future? Now, some of the tools we will talk about is a process flow map, and this is a high-level 5 to 7 high-level steps. We will also talk about a planning document, and this document's important because this lists all of the steps of what we plan to do and all of the action items that we plan to put in place. We talked about the charter, and this is a plan, or I'll list all the details from start to finish of our project. And an observation form, and this is important because we are going to walk the steps of our Gemba. We say it's going to the Gemba. We will walk the steps of this process to identify where all the waste and inefficiencies exist. And then that value stream map, which is that 10,000 foot view of the process. And we will also talk about an A3 problem solving tool. And this tool will help us just dissect the problem with multiple steps and multiple details to understand what is actually happening in the process. So in this process of a Kaizen, we will talk about a change for the better. And this will lead to a lean transformation of continuous improvement across all silos of the organization and all levels of staff, so everybody can be involved. And it is a rapid focused application of lean methods, principles, and tools. And definitely we need data going into a Kaizen event. So having some kind of data of turnaround time or defects, customer complaints, something like that going into a Kaizen is very, very helpful. Now, the process of a Kaizen is multiple steps. So the first is planning and schedule the event. We want to schedule when all of the staff is available. We will educate the team in directed lean principles and tools. We will define, and in this define, we will talk about the charter and understand all aspects of the project. We will illustrate and use some lean graphs and charts, maybe a Pareto chart or something that's helpful to show what the problem actually is. By identifying a metric, we will understand the significance of a problem. So we will pull a metric in. We will brainstorm with our team to develop a strategy to eliminate that problem from occurring and then develop a solution. Once we develop a solution, we will put that solution in place and we will watch to see if that's a good fit. So this is the process of a Kaizen event. So what do we expect in a Kaizen event? Well, we want small incremental improvements, or we may have a groundbreaking, large excellence improvement all at once. We are going to enlist our guiding coalition because we basically need our team to oversee the direction and the activities of the Kaizen event, but we can also adjust as we go. So why do we need this Kaizen event? Well, we want to attain gradual, unending, small incremental improvements. And we are continuously working towards the goal. So we start out in this current condition, we put a plan in place, we watch to see if that's a good fit, and we're continuously working towards that ideal. So in planning the event, we want to align with the strategic goals of the organization. By aligning with the strategic goals of the organization, we are working towards the goals that the KPIs of the organization have put in place. So we can create this strategy to meet those objectives, and we can use that as a change or a transformation in the organization. So the process then, we want to understand the objectives, the scope, and the goals. This requires real-time change. This is an agile approach. So we come up with an improvement, we apply it immediately, and we involve the staff, the local staff that work in that area. Now, scheduling the event, we want to schedule when the staff is available, and we choose what this event will look like. So is it going to be a 4-hour event, maybe 4 hours every day for 5 days? Is it going to be maybe 8 hours for 5 days, or maybe just a lunch? Every hour we get together at lunchtime and we continue with our Kaizen event. You understand and schedule this event depending on your organization. We also want to develop the team. So the team is formed with experts in the area of study. And if you're lucky enough to have a facilitator, that's great. Bring the facilitator in. We need a supervisor, some customers, and the experts that are actually working in those areas. That is very, very important because those are the people that know that process very, very well. So the event then, the process of this event includes 5 phases. And we will talk about each one of these phases. So the first phase is the welcome and introduction. The second phase, we're analyzing the current state. The third phase, we are analyzing the future state. The fourth phase, we implement improvements. And then the fifth phase, we tie it all together and talk about what we did and standardize, and also we can educate the team. So in phase 1 of the Kaizen event, we want to welcome our Kaizen teams, and we want to set some expectations. So what are the rules of this Kaizen event? We will also provide some focused training. As a leader, you will bring in some of the tools that you will use for this event. Everybody understands what it is that we are actually going to accomplish. And we will identify the customer complaint, or the data. So we have some kind of data of what is actually happening in this problem area. We will go and see. Now you can go and see ahead of time and take your team, walk through, identify some issues that's taking place in the workplace, and then come back and complete that charter. So once we have a good understanding of what's actually taking place, we can complete the charter of what we want to accomplish. Now, this charter has many different sections, but it's all about planning. What is this event look like? What are our goals? What is the deliverables? What kind of measures are we going to use? who's on the team, do we have any key assumptions, do we have any limitations. We want to talk about the scope of the project. So where does this project start? Where does this project end? Just everything that's very, very clear about what our plan is and what we are trying to accomplish. Now, by setting the expectation, we are setting rules. And this is very important because we want to standardize the approach to this Kaizen and to continuous improvement. And there are many rules that you can decide as a team that you want to implement. But, no finger pointing is probably one of the good rules to use. It's not the people's fault that work in these areas. It's the process that they work in. So as we're standing around watching or observing, we want to ensure that we're not finger pointing. We're open to the ideas of others. Just because this is the way we have always done things does not mean we have to continue to do that. We want to discard any fixed ideas and see waste as an opportunity, not necessarily a problem, but just an opportunity. And so there are many, many tools and rules that you can use, but setting the expectation in the beginning is very helpful. Now, educating those lean tools. So what is lean all about? Well, it's all about just eliminating any non-value add work. And so what is non-value add work? Well, it's what the customer is not willing to pay for. We want to eliminate those non-value add steps. Those are steps that people have been doing for the last 30 years that are really not necessary. And this is basically waste. So we want to eliminate the waste in the process. And we can identify the waste by mapping the process. So we talked about a high-level value stream map or a process map, and then we can do some kind of process redesign. But once we see the process in action of all of these steps, we can start to understand where those problems are existing. What lean is all about is identifying non-value add in our work, because if the customer is not willing to pay for it, we must eliminate that from happening. What is waste? Well, it's anything that adds cost to the product or service without adding value. Anything that the customer is not willing to pay for, that the insurance company or the government is not willing to pay for. Now, there's many waste called downtime, and it starts with defects. Operator error at the defect level. So we want to watch the operator and see what kind of defects are coming in. We also want to pay special note to overproduction. So are we producing more than we need? Another waste is waiting. So do you see people waiting, techs waiting, operators waiting? And if you do, that could be problematic. We also want to pay attention to non-utilized talent or transformation, where we are moving product from one place to another without any real value. What about inventory? Is there inventory taking up necessary space, taking up valuable real estate? So we want to see if there's more inventory on the floor than you really need at that point. And then motion, bending, searching, looking for things, because you have to find your work, and we want to pay special note to that. Also, excess processing. So are we producing packets of paper that we really don't need? So by eliminating these waste, we can improve laboratory performance. Now, by identifying the customer, we said that we wanted to identify the customer. We wanted to understand who the customer actually is. So a customer-supplier relationship by understanding what the requirement is. So if a customer passes off his work to me, I understand all the details of what I need to do in order to complete this work and to satisfy the voice of the customer. So anything that's delivered to your area, we meet with the customer to understand those requirements. Now, the Kaizen methods and tools that we will use is, the first one is observation. We talked a little bit about it. We will go to the place where the work is happening and ask why. We will observe, we will ask questions, take notes, and look for waste. And we went through all of those different waste. So we want to look for any waste that the customer is not willing to pay for. Now, when we go and see, we say it's going to the Gemba. So we will observe, we will bring some, interest and engage ourselves in their work. We will just watch and respect the process. We will never blame and kind of just look for flow and learn, because we want to understand what this process is all about and where these problem areas are occurring. Now, we have a observation form. So what that form is in your hand, and you're documenting any findings. We're documenting observations. We are documenting handoffs. We are documenting initials of staff, never names, just initials of staff, and then understanding where those defects are occurring to document some of those defects. Now, while we are observing, we are taking note of a process flow. And this process flow map is a visual depiction, generally using symbols of the flow of material from start to finish. Now, this is called a flow chart. We want to list at least the 5 to 7 high-level steps of where this process started, where this process ended, and the steps in between, because we want to understand how many steps are included and where are the problems existing within each one of these steps. We could also create this value stream map, and the process flow map is a start, and then we expand this process map to include data boxes, and then the overall time. So how long does it actually take from the time this process starts to the time that process ends? The data is very, very important. We will also conduct a fishbone diagram, and it is a tool for analyzing all the different details of what goes into a process. And we're brainstorming all of these different sections. So it's called 6M's, and we could list items under management, under man, under method, environment, machine, and material, and just talk about the details, because what we want to do is we want to understand what is the root cause. So why did this actually happen, and what is the root cause? We can also use another tool called a SIPOC, and it's supplier, input, process, output, and customer. And this is a tool to identify all relevant elements of a process. So if I asked you to stand at the door of a clinic with a spreadsheet in your hand or a notepad and just follow the patient from start to finish and just jot down everything that happened and all the people that were involved, this is a SIPOC, because what we're looking for is all of those different things that go wrong, the bottlenecks, the people that called in sick, or the customers or patients that are late to the clinic, or the blood draw that was a misidentification. So all of those things you are following and watching and documenting. We can also create a spaghetti diagram, and this is a visual representation of a continuous flow line tracing the path of an item through the process. So we're watching the process, we're following the workers around, we're documenting this as a map, and then we can understand why this process is so inefficient, because now we have a continuous flow line and we can see the redundancies in the workflow and the opportunities for a process flow. We talked about the scientific method of problem solving, or an A3, and these are just different sections of a problem solving tool that we can go through to say, what is the problem statement? What's our current condition? What is our problem analysis? And then what is the root cause? And what kind of process improvement can we put in place to eliminate this problem from happening? In the event itself, once we start meeting with our teams, we are going to document all of our action items on a Kaizen event form. And this could be any form, but this is your team. We are brainstorming our action steps. We are brainstorming who's going to do these action steps. When is this going to be complete? So we have a date and a time, and we have all of that documented. We talked about the data, which is very, very important. So we want to collect pertinent data and metrics that illustrate the problem. Without data, we are just making a guess, and we don't want to guess. What is the data? What is the facts? And we will collect that data to verify that we actually do have a problem. Now, that metric could be a sigma level, it could be cost, defect data, turnaround data, or a customer complaint that you had collected from maybe the quality department. So once we collect the data that illustrates the problem, we will understand what this problem is all about. And turnaround time data is very easy to collect, and sometimes we can collect that data to show what the baseline actually is. If the baseline starts out at 5 days, we want to go to work to improve that baseline data so it's not 5 days anymore, but we will make an improvement, more improvements, so one after another, to bring that 5 days down to at least 2.5 days. Now we know we have baseline data. And in the phase 2, we analyze that current state, brainstorm ideas with our team, we come up with a root cause, and then we want to prioritize some kind of solution that we can put in place. We can eliminate that problem from happening. In this phase, we are identifying the root cause. And then in phase 3, we are brainstorming a future state. So what do we want this process to look like? We put together some improvements that will eliminate that problem from happening. We really create our future state redesign. And when we talk about a value stream map, we have a current state map, and then we have a future state map. This future state map is the version where it's expedited, it's more efficient, it takes less time, and once we identify some improvements, then we can identify what that future state looks like. And then in phase 3, we can also create some test solution. Let's put a solution in place. Let's come up with something, put it in place, and then watch to see if it's a good fit. We could always tweak it if it's not a good fit. And then in phase 4, we are actually training the participant. We're tweaking the design as needed. And then in phase 5, we are taking the data, watching the process, and then comparing our post data to our pre-data. We will collect the same data. Once we implement a solution and watch to see if it's a good fit, we will collect that data and then compare. So what kind of improvement did we actually accomplish? And so this is this process redesign. Once we do implement our process, we have a future state, we implemented improvements, our data has improved, we have eliminated a lot of the waste and inefficiency, and our process no longer takes 5 days, but now it takes 2.5 days. Then we want to create a standard. We have policies maybe that we will create. Maybe we needed to redesign the process, so we will have a new standard operating procedure. We may develop job aids, new forms, new records, because now the operators need direction on the new process. Creating a new standard work is necessary. Now, at the end of the process, we want to celebrate our success, because these small incremental improvements, people get excited about. They feel good about what the team has done, and so we want to be able to celebrate these successes. In review of our Kaizen event, we talked about lean, and we said it was eliminating non-value add waste. Everything the customer is not willing to pay for, we will eliminate. We had 5 different phases of a Kaizen, and we talked about the importance of data. When we go into a Kaizen event, when we begin, we have some kind of baseline data, and then at the end, we are going to compare our post data to verify that we made an improvement. We will schedule the event depending on team's availability. We will develop that team, create that charter, which is a plan of what we are going to accomplish during this Kaizen event. We have lean tools and methods that we will use, that we will actually do some focus training in the beginning. We will host the event, brainstorm a solution, put that solution in place, and watch to see if it's a good fit. So this is the conclusion of hosting a Kaizen event through Laboratory Learning Solutions. Thank you.